Hello, my Sagittarius friends. Dr. Shiny here. This is a tarot reading for February for 2017 for Sagittarius. Thank you for returning if you were here last time. If you weren't, welcome. Please check out my introductory videos on sort of like the basics of how I approach tarot reading and what you can hope to get out of these readings and that sort of thing. Okay, so I'm going to get right into it today. For your current situation, you're going to have the Ace of Swords. And now the Ace of Swords, what's interesting here actually is you have all three of the aces in your cross. You've got the Ace of Swords as your current situation, the Ace of Cups in your future, and the Ace of Coins in your subconscious. So definitely really new beginnings going on. You've been in a position for a very long time that has been shaken up or is going to be shaken up. And a lot of new opportunities are going to come your way. But now, along with opportunities comes the chance for failure. So keep in mind that just because you may experience a lot of failures coming up doesn't mean that you're in a worse position than you were before, because you're, in new territory anyway. So you've already accomplished more than you would have just sitting there doing nothing. But the Ace of Swords, in particular, swords represent usually thought, so a new idea, or maybe not idea so much as decision, a new challenge, And there's also a sense of clarity that comes with this, sort of cutting to the heart of the matter, There is maybe a sense that things have been sort of moving slowly or barely at all for a really long time, and now there's this energy to really get things done, to do it, What's influencing you or crossing you is the Wheel of Fortune, or this deck just calls it the Wheel. This is talking about karmic wheels, but I think in this situation you maybe think of go to a little bit more like luck, a little bit more like unforeseen circumstances, or like, like you never know what you're going to get, cycles, very much cycles, just everything happens in cycles, time, day, light, night, everything. So that's influencing you or crossing you in some way, or perhaps you feel like too much is being left up to chance, or too much or not enough is in your control. You're feeling a little anxious, like you want to grab a little bit more control or something like that. Learn to be okay with a certain degree of chaos, right? Because it's going to happen regardless. That's kind of the nature of life. And actually, through surprise, through chaos, through all that stuff is when some of the best moments in your life happen to you. And all of these aces, the original artwork of an ace has sort of a hand coming just out of almost nowhere from a cloud. And it will contain it's like a hand coming out of a cloud with a sword, or with a cup, or something like that. And it gives the feeling of sort of divine providence, that things will come at you in unexpected ways sometimes. So you have to be prepared for that. What I see in your past is the Six of Wands. Okay, so this fits pretty well, because the Six of Wands indicates that there's a feeling of success or achievement, but this may not necessarily be because of you, right? So there's a sense here with this card that you could easily take credit for what had happened, but you're forgetting something. So, so let's say like maybe you get in a car accident, right? And somebody hits your car. And that kind of sucks, like, Wheel of Fortune, chance, that kind of sucks, and maybe that's why it's crossing you. But out of that, maybe you get a new car, or you get out of a really bad lease that you were in, or something like that you really shouldn't have been in anyway. And then when you get to the end of that, you're like, this is my success. But you forget that really somebody else who originally you thought was hurting you or harming you in some way or something like that was actually giving you a boost and helping you along. So try to remember that. Try to keep that lesson in mind, that it's not just your abilities and your thoughts and your plans and things that move things forward in the world, that you rely intimately on the system of chance, which is how God operates, right? He operates. I saw a quote one time I really liked that said, synchronicity is God's way of remaining anonymous. And I thought that was beautiful, because that's really how it feels. When you feel God's hand on your life, if you're a religious person, and there are other ways of describing what I'm talking about if you're not a religious, or if you're an atheist or somebody like that. But first I'm going to try the religious. When you feel God's hand on your life, the way you feel that is that everything around you seems arranged. It's almost like you're in the Truman Show sometimes. Like everybody is in on some secret that you're not in on, or not necessarily that feeling, but just a feeling that people are perhaps unwittingly being used as an instrument to deliver the things that God wants for you, okay? Now, psychologically, that's just choosing to put a filter on your reality that things are somehow, or your will somehow has an effect on the world around you, okay? Now, you ask, if you're a really materialistic person, what use does that have to you? Well, and I just said this in another video too. This is actually similar to another reading I had. But chaos magic is a field of magical study, so to speak. But it all relies on one single principle, and that principle is that beliefs are a means to an end. They're a way for you to move forward in a way. So the Six of Wands is very much like the Chariot in the Major Arcana, which it's a vehicle, right? It's a you got in the car and you did what you needed to do to get where you had to go, you know? And so maybe we're in a car accident or something, because the Six of Wands does very closely relate to the Chariot, and I am getting the sense that something, maybe an accident occurred, but it turned out to be like a really good thing. So there's that. In your future, you have the Ace of Cups, which means that if you can get on board with this Wheel of Fortune, if you can get on board, if you can get over the fact that everything is not going to be in your control, right, then you have an opportunity for tremendous emotional fulfillment, and learning that emotional fulfillment through the situation that you're in. So that's exciting, I think. In your foundation, you have the Ace of Coins, which represents a new material opportunity. So again, so that's like, you know, you get your new car after you get in your car accident or something like that, or some sort of a reward is coming. It almost looks, you know, like manna from heaven. You can see it looks like manna to me. So that's what this kind of the idea that this conveys. It's like manna from heaven. You're being provided with the thing that you have wanted or felt that you needed to be happy or something, even if you didn't want to admit it, okay? And it's also important for you to remember the parable about manna, that you can't really store it up, or you can't control it. It comes to you when you need it, and not any other time. You know, you're being provided for by others, or by a higher power, or by divine providence or something. But this, you've been really good. You've been a faithful person. And so now you're being asked to continue being a faithful person, not to abandon that faith, not to get high and mighty and take like the self-righteous sort of path, because in reality, even though you are a determined, a focused person who is very steadfast and does what needs to be done to get the job done, you have heavily relied on other people around you and luck and things like that, whether you realize it or not. So the danger here is that when you're bestowed with blessings, that you don't remember to give thanks to everything else around you that was responsible for it, and you try to take too much credit. And that's how you can end up, well, let's put it this way. Your crowning thoughts card, where your mind is the Tower. which suggests that you're a little bit afraid that an institution or a project or something that you're building won't be steady or won't be or it'll fall down or it'll be temporary or something like that. And it will be. This isn't your final home. You know, you're going somewhere else, and your happiness cannot be based on material possessions and things like that. So use this opportunity, whatever this great opportunity you have is, use it as an opportunity to remember that you have an internal peace that cannot be shaken, and therefore, even though you've gone through good or bad things, you still had that peace and you still kept on to it. So now when you have good things, you should still hold on to that peace and keep it, not let it bother you or not let other people bother you or feel like they're taking something away from you or something like that. And moving forward, you'll be happy, you'll be emotionally fulfilled, and find a way to use your blessings, your benevolence to help other people feel that way. And because you don't necessarily need as much as anybody else does, because you've proved that over these years. You've been happy, whether you realized it or not. You were happy that entire time, that entire struggle. So that's really commendable. It's commendable that you kept this sort of latent positivity, so keep it, because it'll serve you very well. And if you lose it and there's a chance for you to, then that's when your fears are going to be sort of confirmed. Your advice for the current situation is the Death card. That's curious. What is it saying? Death. Is it saying to kill yourself? I hope not. I certainly hope not. No, I think that what this death in your advice spot is saying is to keep in mind that failures, hitting rock bottom, is a way for you to get back up. And this is sort of contiguous with the message that I was giving you about your past and the Six of Wands, how other people did a lot of the work to get you where you're going. You see what I'm saying? So, well, think about it this way, in terms of a car, in terms of something that somebody built, right? It takes very, very little effort for you to go get a lease on a car, and you may have that car for like 3 months or so or something like that. And in that time, maybe you've paid like around $600 or something for that opportunity, which allows you to travel like across the country in hours or, maybe a day or so, rather than taking like months by foot, right? But what you're taking for granted is that a tremendous amount of work and engineering and all kinds of things went into manufacturing and inventing that car. There's been a whole history of cars and everything. And you sort of take that for granted sometimes. So what you have to learn to do is be grateful and appreciate everything that you have, be appreciative of when you lose things as well, or when you go through a process of hardship or hurt. Be grateful for those things, because they're leading you to something else. The processes of creation and destruction occur simultaneously, and they always will. So keep that in mind. Death is not intrinsically a negative thing. In your current environment, we have the King of Swords. Okay, so what I think this means for you today is you're surrounded, or maybe not surrounded by, but there are people around you who are, or there's a person around you who's a very knowledgeable, perhaps intellectual, but at the very least, he holds a ton of knowledge that he's very carefully tempered or crafted, perhaps gone to college for. So this might be a business professional. This might be like an electrician or a plumber or something like that. There are people around you who will are very good at what they do, and you can put your trust in them a little bit. You can let your guard down just a little bit around them, because they know what they're supposed to do. Now, it's going to be up to your intuition to know which of these people you should and should not trust. And I think there are also people around you who can help you with those things as well if you reach out and ask. If you're truly not sure, always ask, you know, even if it's just in a prayer. Just ask. This could also indicate like a lawyer or something like that. So going back to like the car accident thing, there's lawyers who can help you with any questions that you have in the situation, or things like that, if you're unsure. Okay. And your fears card is the Knight of Wands. And this indicates like a very spontaneous energy, just like going forward with something without a whole lot of thought. And so I think that what you're afraid of is that you're not going to do enough planning, that something is going to be poorly executed or something like that. It's good to have that fear in general. Especially if this is a really important venture that you're going through. It's good to have some fear that you haven't planned enough, or that you haven't been, or that you're being too spontaneous or acting too much on whim. You know, it's good to have that, but at the same time, there are opportunities when you should let go a little bit and learn to enjoy something. You know, like if you're going to spend money on a project or something, then don't like be miserly about it all the way through. Learn to enjoy it. Learn to, you know, like don't have buyer's remorse. I bought a keyboard a while back, and it was a fairly expensive keyboard, and I can just remember when I brought it home initially, I was like, oh, I really needed a keyboard, and I really wanted this keyboard, and it's, going to be a valuable tool for me, but wow, that was a lot of money, and money is imaginary, like it's totally fake, so it's really silly for me to allow a thought like that to enter my mind instead of just enjoying the thing that I bought, the thing that really is going to give me a lot of use. $100 or so comes and goes so easily, but something that you're sitting in front of every day and using, and something like it's worth the money, right? And especially something, think about your hands, right? Like it's very important for you to have like ergonomic keyboards and things like that, right? Because you can get these carpal tunnel syndromes and things like that, and end up messing up your wrists and your hands for forever, and that sucks, and that's definitely worth $100 to prevent that from happening. So keep in mind the perspective that everything that happens has positives and negatives, and well, that's not so much the wands, but or the Knight of Wands, but that's just saying that your fear is that you're not planning enough. But just be a planner, but keep in mind the goal. The goal is for you to be happy, emotionally fulfilled, provided for, and those types of things. Other things are bells and whistles. And other things, like extras, personally, I try to avoid too much excess. So when I have lots of extras come in, it feels like a wonderful opportunity for me to give something to somebody else. And then the network of love that creates improves the life of everybody around you. It's like investing in happiness, and it's like virtually nobody does it these days. So if you have an opportunity to do it, please do it, for everyone's sake, for my sake, because I believe that if you make one action in love, no matter where you are in the world right now, given enough time, I will feel a ripple from that, and I may never know it. I may never know what that ripple is, or perceive it, or something like that, but that ripple will hit me eventually, and that's the way I look at the world. Every act ripples out through eternity, It's kind of a gladiator thing, isn't it? What we do in life echoes in eternity. So there's that, because what he did in life, or what Marcus Aurelius did in life, is still echoing in our lives, That's how it works. Everything forms ripples. Now, your overall message here is the Four of Coins. So for an overall message, for this card to be in the overall message, it's essentially saying the same thing that I was saying. You have a figure here who's clutching these coins pretty tightly. And you get the feeling that she doesn't want to lose them, and the original artwork is very hunched over, and the character is like way far away from the town that he's in or whatever, and he's just sort of like being very cautious and careful and planning and you know, being defensive, that type of thing. But I want you to keep in mind there is a place for that, and your role apparently is to be that figure, is to be the one who is the vigilant one that's taking all this very seriously and going through with a logical and sort of like matter-of-fact way of thinking. So that is your role, but keep in mind that even people like that have to have some sort of outlet. They have to have some way of totally pouring themselves in self-expression, right? So if you're involved in a creative venture with multiple people, work toward forming a goal or forming a deal to where one person can have complete creative control over one small aspect of the project, and you can have complete creative control over another aspect of the project, and those will be your little pet projects, you know? This is a tremendous way to tell another person that I care a lot about you as a human, as an individual, and I want you to feel as though you have some control or comfort or something like that. So the act of giving these coins to somebody else, even if you don't think that they necessarily deserve it, can go a long way in bridging gaps and improving your relationship and the environment that you're in, and ensuring that you're going to end up in a happy place, not you know, becoming too obsessed with the material part of it itself, and remembering that you're creating something that's immaterial as well, that there's always, the two go hand in hand, you know. So very cool reading, very good advice for all of us, I think. And if you have any questions or comments, or if there's anything you didn't really understand or wasn't clear to you, please leave it in the comments, and I will try to get to it. If it's something that I think is applicable for everybody, I might include it in the next video or something like that. But until next time, I will see you, and I hope you're all doing well.